All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and man, we have a lot to talk about today. We can consider this a Rico report because we have so many random things to talk about that are all over the place, on the field, off the field, everything. First of all, Indianapolis Colts are considering suing the Washington Commanders over some Andrew Luck tampering. Are we at risk of losing draft picks or anything like that? Is this serious, or is this just something being discussed, talked about as Jim Irsay just bluffing? Also, defensive tackle Phidarian Mathis is turning heads in workouts. Technically a red shirt rookie, just off of the fact that he barely played last year. It's going to be ridiculous to see him out there with this already great defensive line. Can't wait to see how that looks. We're going to talk about all of that. And also, the Washington Commanders are all in on Sam Howell, reportedly. According to John Com, we're going to dive into that as well. Why, how, all of that type of stuff. Also, is there a schedule delay? The schedule is supposed to come out May 11th for all 32 NFL teams, but right now it's looking like there may be a delay. And then just a lot more. We have a lot of random things to talk about in this video. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you pull up for the next call-in show live stream. It will be 2 weekends from now. Make sure you pull up for that. Gonna have a lot of fun there. We talked about the draft heavy this past time. We'll probably talk a lot of draft this upcoming time as well, but it'll also focus on maybe some free agency things as far as holes we still have on our team and things like that, or whatever you want to talk about. If you want to pull up and talk gaming, music, anime, whatever, use your 3 minutes however you want to use them. And of course, also been a lookout for film sessions because I'm officially getting some real access to real all 22 footage. So our entire draft class, I'm gonna be doing film sessions on those guys, and even some of the notable and drafted free agents. Channel members, you're gonna get the longer 30-minute, hour plus long videos, and there will be no ads in it because you already paid to be a channel member. Why would I have ads in the videos? Everybody else is gonna get the 5 to 8 minute version of the film sessions, like a quick synopsis and a couple of plays here and there and things like that. But without further ado, instead of wasting more of y'all time, let's get it.
You tell your family you're gonna be a commander.
All right, so I decided I wanted to talk about Sam Howell first. John Com, the Washington Commanders representative over at ESPN, put out an article and talked about how the Commanders are definitely all in on this guy. He said the Washington Commanders said it all offseason. Quarterback Sam Howell was their guy. Then during last week's draft, their actions spoke even louder. The Commanders did not draft a quarterback as some analysts projected them to do, which means Howell really is their guy, just like they've been saying all along. And that's a great point because they've been saying it, but when it comes time to show it and improve it with action, they did that by not taking action, which means not bringing in another quarterback in the draft. And we're not even talking about an early round pick. We're talking about none at all. We brought in undrafted free agent Tim Demarat from Fordham, and I think at the very least he should be better than Jake Fromm. He should at the very least be third on our quarterback depth chart. I feel like that's pretty simple because he's like the Bailey Zapp of this year. Lower competition, balled out, 59 touchdowns, almost 5,000 yards passing just in 2022. Low level of competition, but hey, man, can't be worse than Jake Fromm. And this is coming from a Georgia Bulldog fan. So they kept saying all offseason, Sam Howell is our guy. And then come draft time with Hendon Hooker there at 47, they didn't take him. Going back to the John Com article, that might have surprised many outside of Washington, but the Commanders really do like Howell. Entering his second season, and sources within the team say they plan to give him first shot at the starting QB job in 2023. They like how he developed in 2022, culminating in a 26-6 regular season finale win over Dallas and his one and only start in game action. Howell completed 11 to 19 passes for 169 yards, 1 touchdown pass, 1 rushing TD, and an interception. Now, statistically, wasn't an amazing game at all. If you were to just look at that, just for face value, you'd be like, that game's all right. But if you actually look at it, look at the traits, look at the projection, I loved a lot of what I saw in that game. He made some mistakes. He still looked like a rookie out there, especially with that ridiculous interception and triple coverage of Cam Sims. But I mean, generally, he showed a lot of promise, and I truly believe that if we started Sam Howell sooner, we probably would have made the playoffs. But At the same time, maybe it was best in the long run to let him sit until the last game of the season. That's what the Chiefs did with Pat Mahomes sitting behind Alex Smith. They didn't play him until the very last game of the season before he took over as a starting quarterback. Hopefully Sam Howell has the exact same career trajectory, but of course that's asking for a lot. But the team's confidence in him goes beyond just what he showed in that game. Quote, "I'm really happy with exactly where he is," unquote, Washington general manager Martin Mayhew said. That's why the Commanders weren't tempted to pick Kentucky's Will Levis when he was available with the 16th pick, opting instead for cornerback Emmanuel Forbes. One team source said that the only quarterback who would have tempted them was Tennessee's Hendon Hooker, but only if he was there when they selected in the 3rd round. So they really liked Hendon Hooker, and we were hearing before the draft that there was a lot of interest in Hendon Hooker. We kept hearing it left and right. We brought him in not only for a visit, but we took him to a private dinner, which is just insane because, I mean, the other guy that we took to a private dinner this offseason was Eric Bieniemy, and he ended up becoming our offensive coordinator and assistant head coach. So it seemed like private dinners meant the Commanders were going to eventually bring you into the organization one way or another. But apparently, they, even as much as they liked him, they weren't going to take him before the 3rd round. They value Quan Martin too much. They really wanted interior offensive line. Based on everything that we're hearing from reports and just like put the clues together, it seems like that Quan Martin was like a great backup plan, but their real objective was to trade up and potentially get Steve Avila on the interior offensive line. But when that didn't work, they loved Quan Martin at 47. You could argue he's a steal at 47, but even as much as they liked Hendon Hooker, they wanted Quan Martin more than they wanted Hendon Hooker 47, and they were hoping Hendon Hooker may make it to the 3rd, but I didn't think he would, and he didn't. And so that just goes to show that they really do believe in Sam Howell. I mean, taking a 3rd round quarterback does kind of sound a little early for you to be all in on Sam Howell, but at the end of the day, when you take him in the 3rd round and he was there for you 1st and 2nd, that actually does show on the other side that they really do like Sam Howell, and Hendon Hooker will be brought in as a developmental quarterback, especially coming from how ridiculously fluky that Tennessee offense is. I mean, it's as childish as it gets. It's as far away from the pro style offense as it gets. Now, I feel like he has a certain floor to him because of his mechanics, his age, and things like that. But when it comes to like actually running a real NFL offense, he's as raw as it gets, and he's returning from a torn ACL injury. So he would have been brought in as a developmental guy anyway. But either way, man, it's fair to just go ahead and move on because, I mean, we didn't make the pick, and that's all that matters. Now, what's really interesting is CBS Sports' Cody Benjamin ranked all of his 2023 NFL starting quarterbacks, did a quarterback rankings. And guess who's did last? Our boy Sam Howell. He said he flashed a big arm in week 18, and the Commanders seemed to like the gutsy mentality they also sought with Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke. But the 2022 5th rounder is wholly unproven otherwise. But then, I mean, if you're going to use that logic, why is Sam Howell did last? I mean, Desmond Ridder played more games, but he didn't do anything that inspired me to think that he was better than Sam Howell. And Desmond Ridder's 31st. Then you have Mac Jones 29th. I mean, we've seen him play quite a bit. He didn't inspire me much. Kenny Pickett has played quite a bit, and I mean, we'll see with him. He has my dog George Pickens to throw to. Also, my boy Darnell Washington and Broderick Jones to block for him. So Kenny Pickett's probably just going to be successful just because of all them Georgia Bulldogs around him. But 27th is CJ Stroud, and if we're using the logic of we haven't seen anything yet, at least Sam Howell has started and won at least one NFL game. I mean, as much as you can like CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young, they haven't played an NFL snap yet. So with that logic, it's just ridiculous that CJ Stroud is ahead of Sam Howell, Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, any of those guys. It's also a little interesting too because they have Anthony Richardson ahead of CJ Stroud, but I'm just assuming because the Colts are a better team than the Texans. And I love Anthony Richardson. I'm one of those Anthony Richardson truthers. I think he can end up being an elite quarterback if developed the right way, and I think it's more likely to happen than some people give it credit for. I think he has a higher floor than some people give him credit for. But above CJ Stroud in the quarterback rankings, and we're just isolating the quarterback, that's quite ridiculous, I'm not gonna lie. Especially after what CJ Stroud did to my Georgia Bulldogs. He earned all of the respect in the world for me, because he definitely deserved to win that game. That was the scariest I felt as a Georgia Bulldog fan, watching a quarterback tear us up, and even having arguably the best defense in college football, feeling like there's nothing we can do. I mean, Bryce Young has had a couple of games, but see, that CJ Stroud game in the playoffs may be number one for me. So as much as I love Anthony Richardson, he ain't do none of that against us in Florida. Not even close, not even a little bit, not even flashes. So I'm surprised to see CJ Stroud below him, not even just defending Sam Howell, defending CJ Stroud. If your logic is to have a bunch of rookie quarterbacks up here as well, Anthony Richardson ahead of CJ Stroud is insane in itself. Then Jordan Love above him. Jimmy Garoppolo, we should already know what we got, man. It's time to move on. Bryce Young's all the way up at 21. It's interesting that Kyler Murray's all the way down to 20. And then Russell Wilson's ahead of him in 19. I mean, these are really interesting rankings if you want to go check them out. Brock Purdy's already at 12. Trevor Lawrence is already at 8. This is going to be fun, man. I can't wait for the season. Jalen Hurts is 3, only behind Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. But yeah, man, Sam Howell at 32 is absolutely insane to me. And I mean, of course, people came to the defense of Sam Howell. People pointed out the fact that Sam Howell in college had a 91.6 Pro Football Focus passing grade as a sophomore. He had a 90.9 Pro Football Focus rushing grade as a junior, and minimum 72% adjusted completion percentage in all 3 years. And yet we're just acting like he's just this extremely raw quarterback, more raw than all of these guys that they have above him on the list. It is actually pretty ridiculous. And then there's a whole just thread of tweets of people showing different highlights of Sam Howell not only balling in the NFL but balling out in college and comparing him to the other quarterbacks that are ranked ahead of him. And it's just like, come on now, what is it with Sam Howell that he doesn't have that these other quarterbacks have? And apparently it's just literally because he plays for the Washington Commanders. That's the only thing. When you really dive into the tape and the statistics, advanced statistics, grades, anything you want to look at, when you really dive deep into it, the only difference is that he plays for the Commanders. And I mean, how can we get the benefit of the doubt? Because Warren Sharp brought up a great point. Number of starting quarterbacks the last 5 years. The most with 12, the Washington Commanders. Who has 11? Nobody. Who has 10? Nobody. Denver has 9. The Colts and the Dolphins have 8. Chicago, Jacksonville, New York Jets, Carolina Panthers, New Orleans Saints have 7. And then it just goes on and on down. But there's a gap. It's 12 with us. 12 starting quarterbacks over the last 5 years. Nobody has 11 or 10, and then it starts with Denver at 9 and it goes down. So, I mean, it's not even necessarily that they're doubting Sam Howell individually, maybe. It's probably just simply because he plays for the Washington Commanders. Even though our roster is stacked top to bottom, I would say. I mean, we may not necessarily be the Eagles roster-wise, but I think we're easily a playoff team if Sam Howell just gives us at least a little bit better than what Taylor Heineke and Carson Wentz gave us last year. Because a lot of people keep acting like Taylor Heineke was carrying the team. We were winning in spite of him. There's a reason he had a QBR in the 30s. Like, there's only 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. He had a QBR in the 30s, like 33 or something like that. I can't remember. I got to find it. And then Carson Wentz had one that was even worse. So if Sam Howell could at the very least be a top 20 quarterback, we're making things shake. We almost made the playoffs with that level of QB play last year. Sam Howell, just give us what you gave us in that Cowboys game. And if anything, he should only get better over time, especially with him getting QB1 reps all off season and a better receiving core to throw to, a better offensive line to block for him. I'm telling you, man, there's it's literally playoffs or bust for us at the end of the day. And if Sam Howell, you just got to go out there and be decent. Just be a top 20 quarterback. You ain't even got to give me top 10, top 15. Give me top 20, maybe even 22nd. We should make the playoffs, especially in this weak NFC. The NFC East is full of dogs. The NFC West is pretty tough as well. But the NFC in general, we should be able to make the playoffs for sure, for sure. And then also, next up, Michael Phillips did a report on the fact that Commanders defensive tackle Phidarian Mathis is turning heads in return to workouts, man. And that's huge news. Now, granted, John Ridgeway stepped in. We picked him up off of the Cowboys practice squad, kind of off waivers before he got to the Cowboys practice squad. He was like a 5th or 6th round pick for him that draft. It's really weird to release a 5th or 6th round pick that soon going into the season. Like the fact that he made the 53-man roster, then a couple of weeks in, they decided to try to sneak him onto the practice squad, and the Commanders like, no, you don't. And then he came over and balled out for us. And so our defensive line is really deep, especially interior defensive line. That's easily our deepest and strongest group on the team, between that and receiver for sure. And so the fact that it was already that great, and now all we're going to do is just add 2nd round pick Phidarian Mathis to that is insane. Because I think Phidarian Mathis looked really good in the preseason and training camp. And even before he got hurt and out for season, he looked pretty decent in that game as well, showing a couple of flashes here and there and things like that, especially when stopping the run. Because we want Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne to get after the quarterback. We expect them to stop the run as well, but it's their turn. It's their job mainly to get to the quarterback because that's what they do best. Whereas Phidarian Mathis and John Ridgeway, anybody want to run the ball against us, we have 2 guys now with Phidarian Mathis returning that can eat up double teams, allow everybody else to eat up one-on-one blocks, keep our linebackers clean, and we're going to be able to stop the run like that. And that's why you're able to have 5 guys in the secondary most of the time, because our front 7 really mostly made of defensive linemen should be able to stop the run almost themselves. And Phidarian Mathis should be one of the leaders of that. I mean, as great as John Ridgeway was last year, Phidarian Mathis should even be better. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, man, when talking to reporters, Jonathan Allen said, quote, I mean, he's back. He's out here with us every single day. He's ready to work. I was telling him how I broke my foot my rookie year, so I understand where he's at mentally, and that's a dangerous spot for a lot of guys. When you come back after your first year being hurt, you're hungry and ready to work, just like you're a rookie. So I'm looking forward to seeing them play football this year, unquote. And remember, in January, Mathis credited the team's trainers with getting them ready to play again. He said he stayed in Ashburn throughout his entire rehab. Quote, I've been here the whole time, Phidarian Mathis said. I trust the trainers here. We've been making great progress. Man, they got me back quicker than we really thought. It's been a long process, but we're working. They push me really hard. They keep me motivated, unquote. And that's great to hear, man, because again, that was the only thing that any of the NFL players graded us well in. Remember when we were heading into free agency and we had the free agency grades and they broke down every little thing about an organization: training facilities, hot tubs, baths, cafeteria, food, flight, how they treat the players' families, like all of the little things. And the only thing we did really well with was strength trainers. That's literally it. And we had an A+. I think we were #1, but we were like dead last in several things, or at the very least one of the worst. So it goes to show, hey man, that strength team carrying the team on its back by making us a legitimate organization. I can't wait for Josh Harris and the company and all of them to come in and fix all of that, revamp that whole thing. We should not be dead last in so many categories. We should not be the least liked free agency destination for the out of the entire NFL. That's ridiculous. But hopefully, again, Josh Harris and those guys come in and fix that. But at the end of the day, our strength and conditioning coaches work wonders, man. They're out here doing an amazing job. Again, I believe they were ranked #1, and Phidarian Mathis is proof of that. And again, he's turning heads in practices, man. And I'm really excited to hear about that, man. That's just gonna be another player. The next up, probably the news that most of y'all maybe came to the video to talk about and listen to. It was reported that the Commanders called the retired former quarterback Andrew Luck from the Colts to see if he's available to sign with them last season. So apparently we were really looking around everywhere to really find a quarterback, and Carson Wentz just ended up being the guy that we went with, but it wasn't our ideal situation. It's reported that we also pursued like Kyler Murray even, and like tried to see if we could trade for him and all kinds of stuff, man. It was crazy last year. And the fact that we even looked into Andrew Luck is insane, but that's getting us into some trouble. But we're going to get to that soon. It's also reported, in addition to Andrew Luck, the Commanders reportedly called every NFL team to ask if their quarterback is available last season. And it's being reported, including Mahomes from Dove Kleiman. But John Keim came out and said, to be clear, they did not call about Mahomes. Called every team whose QBs might be available. So they didn't just call literally all 31 other NFL teams. And then Dove Kleiman continued to say, as far as the draft, a source told ESPN the team was only tempted to draft Hendon Hooker if he was there when they picked in the 3rd round. Like we said earlier with Sam Howell, when we were talking about Sam Howell and how all in they are on him. So thank goodness we're finally all in on a quarterback now, because now we're in trouble for this whole Andrew Luck situation apparently. Colts owner Jim Irsay said 16 hours ago, I'm recording this currently right now at 2:30 p.m., if any NFL team attempted to contact Andrew Luck or any associate of him to play for their franchise, it would be a clear violation of the league's tampering policy. He went ahead and put it all out there. And so it's being reported regarding Washington's reported check-in on Andrew Luck's last offseason. Quote, a Colts source said the team is unclear about the nature of the conversations, but is seeking to learn more about what exactly transpired and whether any tampering occurred. Unquote. If tampering is proven to have taken place, the Commanders could be fined and/or docked draft picks. That is scary and really bad. I mean, and at the end of the day, man, out of all of the bad things that the Commanders have done as a whole under Dan Snyder, most of it being from Dan Snyder, through Dan Snyder, or because of Dan Snyder, this is just insane that like could be another one added to the list. And if anything, this should be the one we're worried about the least. We have so many problems that we should be worried about way more than this. And it would be crazy if we ended up losing the draft pick for this versus all of the other ridiculous stuff that Dan Snyder has said. And even more, the thing that makes me the most angry about the situation is like, come on now, Dan Snyder's leaving. So Jim Irsay, what are you so serious about? This is not one last way to get at Dan Snyder and to get him back while he's on the way out the door. This wouldn't hurt him. He's selling the Commanders very soon. It's technically already sold. So this doesn't hurt him. It just hurts the Commanders moving forward. It's going to hurt Josh Harris and company. And just the Commanders fans, the Commanders team, Jason Wright, all of us. Like, it wouldn't hurt Dan Snyder. He literally is already like, well, that's not my problem anymore. So Jim Irsay, just chill out, man. Chill out, man. Cool it, man. It's not even that serious, bro. But the reason I am a little nervous because JP Finley said that this thing, it might be getting legs. And that might be bad news for Washington. And remember, the Dolphins had to forfeit their first round pick this past draft over all of the stuff that they had going on the previous season. So the NFL is definitely on it. If you need a pick, Doc, for whatever you did, the NFL is ready. They're not sleeping on that. We just saw that last year with the Miami Dolphins making the draft weird with us only having 31 picks in the first round. That was really strange. But moving on to random news, a couple of random things. We may get more Commander CBS games this season. This nugget came from Peter King's column recently. He said one thing making schedule construction tougher this year is the elimination of the road team determining the televising network for Sunday games. With few exceptions, the road team for Sunday afternoon games has dictated where it would go on TV. In a game with an NFC road team, Fox would televise. For a game with an AFC road team, CBS would do it. Now every Sunday afternoon game is a free agent, which expands the possibilities for the schedule. You can be sure CBS will be fighting for as many Kansas City Chiefs games in the late afternoon doubleheader slot, and I won't be surprised if CBS gets every Mahomes doubleheader game this year. With the AFC so much stronger, particularly in franchise quarterbacks, don't be surprised to see Fox get a couple of the roadies with Cincinnati or Buffalo or Baltimore or maybe even the Jets. So that's really interesting, just really random. A lot of y'all may not care, but I just wanted to let y'all know that. Speaking of schedules, it's been reported that the NFL hoped to have its regular season schedule announced on Thursday, May 11th. But there's a chance it may not be ready and could be delayed per Peter King, the article that we were just talking about. The schedule makers are expected to meet with Commissioner Roger Goodell later today. More clarity expected after that. So I don't remember ever hearing about a schedule delay. I'm really curious as to what's going on. Is it because the fight that Peter King just talked about, that we just discussed with the Commanders probably ending up with a lot of CBS games? Is it the fight between all of the networks to see who gets what or things like that? What is exactly going on behind the scenes? Because I thought this was a process that they worked on very early, and it's just amazing that even at this point from today, even if they were just now starting today, they can't have it done by Thursday. And so again, I don't really remember a time that a schedule release has ever been like delayed, or at least openly delayed, to where we know like it was supposed to come out one day and it came out later than that because of whatever issues. I can't wait to hear what the issues are, but that's really chaotic. So of course, a lot of people are speculating, what do we have to do to finesse this whole Aaron Rodgers situation? They probably already had a schedule ready, and then Aaron Rodgers got traded, and they've been scrambling to figure that out. And then of course all of the quarterbacks that got drafted in the first round, maybe that's what's delaying everything. But everybody's basically just joking about how the NFL is doing everything that they can to get Aaron Rodgers on primetime television as often as possible, especially with them being in New York now. And then lastly, the Washington Commanders have extended a rookie camp invite to Devin Darrington, the running back who played for the Orlando Guardians in the XFL. Began his collegiate career at Harvard before transferring to UVA in 2021. And then camp will kick off this Friday. So just let you know, rookie minicamp start this Friday. And of course, I'm going to do everything that I can to report as much as I can, upload as many clips as I can for y'all to see what's going on. Because I'm really excited, man. We have a lot of guys. Hopefully before rookie minicamps happen on Friday, I need to go ahead and do a video on all of the guys that are invited. Basically just to give you a quick little synopsis and at least put a face to every name and what they do best, what they don't do best, things like that. So just the complete rundown of everybody is going to be there, between the rookies that we drafted, the undrafted free agents that we signed, and all of the guys that are invited, that are, because when you're invited to the rookie minicamp, you are not officially signed to the Commanders yet. You're just trying out basically, and some players even go to multiple rookie minicamps. So make sure you just stay tuned for that. I'm really excited about that. I definitely want to get a video out like that before Friday. But yeah, man, that's the end of the video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. As always, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Of course, let me know how you feel about the Colts potentially suing the Commanders over something as petty as Andrew Luck tampering, who didn't even come to the Commanders. It'd be different if he actually came to the Commanders or became our starting quarterback and balled out, But the fact that like there was no real interest there for real, at least from Andrew Luck's side, like why does it matter? Also, let me know how you feel about Phidarian Mathis turning heads and workouts. That's big time, man. And then also the fact that the Washington Commanders are clearly all in on Sam Howell. Not only have they said it, but they've shown it through action. And then also, how do you feel about this schedule delay and everything we talked about in this video? Without further ado, I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.